Hi everyone, welcome back to our podcast. Today we're going to be talking about The Bear from Hulu. My name's Sadia and I'm the podcast host. And does anyone ever want to introduce themselves?
Yes. My name is Valencia and I'm the data and uploads person.
My name is Katie and I'm the project manager.
My name is Eve and I'm the website designer.
My name's Brianna. I'm the tech expert.
My name is Caitlin. I'm the presenter.
Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. So, our first question is, early in season 1, episode 1, we see Fack say this about Richie. He's not a nice guy, it's just he's sad inside. What are the heartbreaks Richie's dealing with in The Bear, and how is he responding to these heartbreaks?
Okay, I think with like the heartbreaks that he's dealing with, like first of all, the divorce of his wife, like divorcing his wife and then losing kind of custody of his daughter, like not being able to see her very often. And I think like I've never been a parent, so I don't know the struggle of not seeing a kid, but I can imagine how hard it would be to be like ripped away from all you've known. Like you're comfortable in that lifestyle of being married and having to do things together, and then having a kid, and then she kind of, I don't know the whole story. We didn't like get too deep into that, I don't think, in the episodes that we watched, but like for whatever reason that Tiffany left him, or that they got divorced, I think it's really sad to see how that affects people, and I think it kind of can be shown through his use of like profanity and like how he copes with that, and also the same with his sorry, I'm getting distracted, and also with the suicide. I think that also affected him because he was really close with Mikey, and I feel like he's just had it really hard, like really rough, and it's kind of hard for me to personally relate to him, but I think he like turns to coping mechanisms like drinking and smoking, like we talked about in class.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off that about his daughter, because I think his wife is almost weaponizing him at some point. Obviously not really as much in season 2, but in the first season she was like saying something about this Richie bad news, and he got pretty upset that his daughter had to see that and now calls him that versus, like dad. And then I think it's also hard for him that the restaurant is changing, because this is the one thing that's been consistent in his life, is this restaurant. Even without Mikey, it was still there. And we even see this with the changing of the neighborhood. I think he was actually pretty upset with all of the development happening when we saw him with the, I think it was the gang. I think it's really difficult for Richie to process any kind of change, but it hit really hard all at once. And that's why his relationship with Carmi is kind of strained at the beginning, because Carmi represents the change that he fears the most.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I was also gonna say like the divorce and stuff, and how he can't see his daughter anymore. And I feel like with also like the suicide of his best friend, it's really like had an impact on him, and he's acting out like he was already. I feel like you can kind of tell that's kind of already in his personality, kind of like a little bit stubborn and stuff, but it's definitely a lot more now that he's not like in full control of the restaurant anymore. So I definitely think that's had an impact on him. But does anyone else have any thoughts on this question? Okay, so we're gonna go on to the next question. After Mikey died, his best friend Richie took over running the beef until his brother Carmi got there 4 months later. The first episodes we watched give us plenty of evidence of each person's leadership style. Discuss what type of leaders Richie and Carmi are. Who do you think leads the staff better, and why?
I think, did you want to go?
Oh, I'll go with you.
Okay. I think it's important to note that Carmi, when he works in these high-end restaurants, he's very like to the point, organized, and he runs it almost like a military operation, but he also doesn't account for everybody's feelings, such as Sydney, when she's trying to present these ideas or she's trying to do her dish. He doesn't connect emotionally with the workers, which I think is kind of an issue in the long run. Like, yes, it's important to be organized, and yes, it's important to have a clean kitchen, but you also have to connect with your staff. But I think Richie is disorganized and does not know how to run a restaurant, but he works very well with people, as we see the way he handles people at the front and the way he talks. And even when he did end up working at the high-end restaurant, they liked him because of his ability to talk to people. He might not be efficient, but he does have a way with people. And I think it's hard to say which leadership style is better, because they weirdly complement each other, because both of them lack something that the other one has.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I think, like how you were saying, I think both like need to work together. I feel like having both their type of like leadership styles work pretty well together. But I would say that I like personally think that Carmi's like a better leader, because yes, like he as far as like connecting with the other chefs and stuff, he's not like the best, like he's not as good as that as Richie is. But I think they got more done with Carmi in charge, so that's why I think that he was a better leader. But if anyone has any other opinions on that.
I also do think that Carmi was a really good one because he had a lot of respect for the other people in the kitchen. I feel like I lost my train of thought. Hold on. I lost it. Sorry.
Anyone else have any thoughts on this one?
I was just gonna say, I think they both kind of have like a traditional style. Like they're both used to running things the way that it was ran. Like before Carmi came, Richie had his own system that worked for the workers. But then once Carmi came, he tried to implement the culinary like order of running a kitchen, and they didn't respect him as much for it in the beginning. But I think as the series progressed, they began to respect each other a lot more and understand each other and understand Carmi and what he went through, especially Richie, when he went to the high-end restaurant to work, and they understood like how intense it is in the culinary field.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move to the next question. So, when talking to his sister, Carmi says, I guess all the time I feel like I'm kind of trapped because I can't describe how I'm feeling. What heartbreaks does Carmi carry with him? Which ones are known to others, and which ones does he not share/fully understand?
I feel like one of his major heartbreaks is working in the kitchen with how toxic that environment was, and the people who talked to him and told him like he couldn't do enough, like he wasn't enough. I feel like that one still kind of haunts him to the day in the kitchen.
I think not only the death of Mikey is like a heartbreak for him, but the rejection of Mikey that he got while Mikey was alive. Like, not only the fact that his brother is dead and he can't prove himself to him anymore, but even when he was proving himself and pushing himself and doing all these new things and trying to earn his brother's respect, he still wasn't able to do it, and he'll never be able to get that sense of fulfillment from his brother's approval. So I think that the fact that he placed so much emphasis on what his brother thought about him, and he'll never be able to receive what he wants from him, I think that's something that he'll have to carry with him for a while.
Yeah.
Right, I don't think he got that closure, because even the months leading up to his death, he was begging and wanting that attention like they used to have. They used to have a very good relationship, but I think Mikey's use or abuse of drugs drove him away, and that's why he didn't get that validation that he so desperately wanted. And him just dying like that felt, I think, very impulsive to Carmi, and it hurt him, because now I can't see you anymore. I never had that validation. I'm never going to get that validation, like you said. I will just never have that relationship with my brother like I used to. And it sucks that that was the leading up to his death, that he can't say he had a good footing with his brother when he died.
Yeah. The fact that like he didn't even like really know like what was like fully going on with him because Mikey was pushing him out, I think that was like took a really big toll on Carmi too, because like that's his brother. He wants to like show him that, like, to like make him proud and stuff, but he was like pushing him away, so he couldn't even do that and like be like connected to his brother. So I think that was like really hard for him to deal with. But yeah. So
Any other thoughts?
okay. Our next question is: Carmi and Richie are the central characters in the episodes we watch. What other characters stood out to you and why?
I would actually really love to talk about Sugar. I think as minor of a character as she is, she plays a very important part in Carmi's life. That is his support system. He really trusts Sugar because I think she can feel empathy, but she also gives tough love to Carmi. But I think she's very overlooked because, I mean, we do see, I can't remember which episode, but she feels so drained all the time because Carmi doesn't ask about her. He only goes to her to complain or to vent or to just have his feelings expressed, and Sugar is expected to take it. And I think that internalizes with her because she hasn't really had time to grieve. She's been dealing with the loan, and she's been dealing with almost losing her house because of the loan. And I think everyone just looks around Sugar because she has a very strong foundation. We see her husband, I forgot his name, but he's a very positive influence in her life. And Carmi and Richie hate that for some reason. But I think in the episode where with the party, they see that that is her guiding light, is her husband, because he is so positive all of the time. And that's what she needs when there's so much sadness and grief in her life that she has to deal with single-handedly on her own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like she's definitely like overlooked a lot, and as much as she tries to get like Carmi to express his feelings about like the death and stuff, but she's also really frustrated about the fact that like he never asked her like how she's feeling about it, and it's always just like he's so like invested in the restaurant that he doesn't even like bother to ask his sister how she's dealing with the death and stuff. So yeah, I think that was a really good point. And then also I feel like Sydney, she stands out too, because she's kind of like the other, like besides Carmi and Richie, she's also like one of like the main characters and stuff. And I feel like she definitely kind of like struggles with like control. So she wants to like be able to kind of like do things her way and like show Carmi that she knows what she's doing. Like she wants to prove herself to him, but he kind of like overlooks her in some ways, and she like kind of struggles with that, like wanting to like show that she is a good chef.
I agree. I think I relate with Sydney most because of her like her wanting to be perfect and her wanting to be like her progressive nature, her like perfectionism, and I feel like I can relate myself to her. Like she's like in the beginning, nobody was like listening to her ideas because everybody was kind of old-fashioned, wanting to keep everything the same. Like why if it's not broken, don't fix it kind of thing. And she is like, no, but we can be better than this. We can have a better like food rating, like I don't know what they got rated for, like their that inspector, like we can have a higher rating than a C. I think it was a C. I think it was a C. We can have we can do better than this, and we can be better. And I feel like Richie's kind of like the in the middle, and then Carmi is kind of like wanting to keep things the same, kind of like in the middle, and then Sydney is like pushing for like new things and let's be better. Let's like start over and try new things. And I mean, so was Carmi, but like Richie wanted to keep everything the same. Like Sydney just kind of stands out to me as being very progressive and wanting to make the restaurant better instead of just keeping it the same way like Richie does.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think Marcus almost is inspired by Sydney's energy, because we do see him trying to make new desserts rather at the beginning than just half-assing a lot of the things he was making. He even goes to the point where I think he becomes borderline obsessed with making a dessert, staying home or staying in the kitchen all day and not ever leaving and sleeping in the kitchen. And then he's still trying to make desserts throughout the dinner rush, which inevitably ticks off Carmi because he's not focusing on what needs to be focused on at hand at the moment. But I do like their dynamic together because I think Sydney pushes him, but Marcus also needs to realize that he needs to slow down at times. but I think because he's gotten started, he doesn't want to stop.
Yeah. And also another character is Tina. I know you were talking about her on Friday, and you were saying like how she like you don't really get to see like her in like her grieving Mikey. She definitely does. She was really close with him. You can tell that she was really close with Mikey before he died, and you don't really get to see like much of her like how she's like grieving him and stuff. But you can definitely tell that she really cared about him, and that she's just like taking it really hard too. But you don't really get to like see much of that because they kind of like don't really show like her storyline that much. At least in season 1, we don't really know about the other season, but yeah. So I think she also is a good character. Any other thoughts on this question?
One more. Oh, did you want to say something?
No, she had took what I was going to say.
Fac, I think he's really just a comedic relief character. I think he feels heartbreak for the loss of Mikey, for Richie and Carmi, but I think Fac is a very good character. Just to like every time we see them with Fac, they're very stressed out, but it's almost like a funny kind of stressed out, where he's almost starting a fire or an electrical surge. But I think it's a very good character to have because this show is so serious at times. And I think it's really nice to have a character who's just kind of funny. I mean, he feels kind of one-dimensional to me. I don't know if y'all feel the same about that. But it's nice to have a comedic relief in their lives to pull them out of that grief even for at least a brief moment.
Yeah. So we're going to move to the next question. So Carmi's tattoos are almost their own separate character. Which tattoo stands out the most to you and why? And why do you think you got this tattoo? And I have the tattoos pulled up right here if y'all want to see.
I'm still honestly kind of confused about like the Sue, but I don't know. Maybe I feel like he could have gotten that when he was working in the kitchen. I don't know, but there's like 2 of them, so I don't know why he did 2.
In the article that he sent us, the SOU stands for sense of urgency.
Yeah.
So like the fact that it's
Okay.
on his fingers, he's like looking down at his fingers, and he's like
Wow.
the first thing that came to my head was that every second counts or every second matters or something like that. That was in that kitchen, and so like you look down at your hands, and the first thing that your eyes are drawn to is the black ink on your fingers, and you're like, sense of urgency. I have to go. I got to keep moving. So I think that's very interesting to point out. That he's got it on both of his fingers. I like how you brought that up too.
Yeah.
So I thought that was so funny because I thought it was because of a sous chef.
I
didn't
did
think
too.
about the
It makes
sense
sense,
of
and
urgency thing.
I would not have
Yeah.
come up with sense of urgency except for the fact that I just looked
I
at the
had no
article and it
idea.
said it.
Yeah.
It said something.
Wow.
SOU stands for.
But that makes so much more sense now that you say that. I feel like the cup with the world, I feel like that could be like cooking is his whole world, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but
No, I think you're right.
I thought the 773 was interesting. I thought that was an angel number, even though I don't think Carmi is very religious. I mean, after his brother died, I thought that could have been something his brother related to, but then I did some research in it, and it's actually the area code for Chicago. And I think it's important he has that because he does go out of state multiple times to work in these high-end restaurants like in New York and Paris, just kind of around the world. But it's right, where is it tattooed? Like on his
I think it's on his bicep.
his
Yeah.
bicep. I think that's interesting that he has that tattooed because it just gives him a route back to home. And that does kind of show a connection between him and Richie because I think they both really enjoy Chicago, even with all the craziness surrounding it. That's just his hometown, and that's where he belongs. Yeah.
One tattoo that like I noticed a lot in the episodes was the hand with the knife in it.
yeah.
And I read in the article that I don't know if it was like the one that he provided or like a different one, but it was like most like knife tattoos, whatever, are usually like a dagger,
Mhm.
but this one was like a kitchen knife. So it's kind of like connecting like his like role as a chef, but also kind of like I think the article was talking about how it's like kind of like self-sabotage or something like that, and how he's always trying to like how like he ends up doing stuff that like sabotages him, and I think that kind of this tattoo kind of like symbolizes that, but and the other tattoo was the snail one, and then underneath it it says live fast, which was kind of like
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, and the article was talking about how that's kind of like ironic and stuff, and they were saying how the snail kind of represents his life before he went to like that famous restaurant in New York, and how everything was kind of like slow pace and stuff, and he was just like not really moving forward. But then underneath it, the live fast kind of like shows his life in New York, and like how everything's really fast paced, and like how like his like him working in the restaurant, like the famous restaurant, was kind of like very like quick, and just like kind of like contrasting his life before and during working at the at Noma. So that one kind of stood out to me. But
I do wonder with these. Oh, go ahead.
I was just looking at it.
Oh, this one?
Mhm.
Yeah, I do wonder what that one's about because
looks like
it
the
looks like
grammar.
death
Yeah.
and then like a bottle.
It could be his issue with alcoholism.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that's a good point.
I also like the flower. Like I
Yes,
don't know
yeah,
much
the-
about flowers,
yeah.
but the article said it was a forget-me-not. So how that kind of could be, like the article like mentioned how it could be in honor of Mikey, like how he got that to say like don't ever forget like what you're striving for and like what you're wanting to go through this life fighting for. So kind of I wouldn't have noticed that if I hadn't like read the article about it and like
Yeah.
didn't. It's just kind of interesting to think that he put that flower there on purpose.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's,
Oh, go ahead.
you go.
I want to know what these two little.
That's what I was about
Yeah,
to say.
scratch
Are they
marks
like,
are.
like
Yeah, I never even saw that.
they could be like bear.
The bear
Yeah.
claws, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. I don't ever recall seeing them.
Yeah,
but-
I have
Yeah.
not seen those anywhere.
Yeah. Are there any? Oh,
Is this a fish with an hourglass in the middle of it? That's what it looks like.
That's what the a fish with an hourglass is.
Yeah.
What they are.
Okay.
It could be it looks like an X from back here, but
Yeah,
the
it
does
article
look
says
like
it's
an
an
X
hourglass.
too. Yeah,
I like
that's
to see it.
interesting. I don't know what that means.
I think it's kind of cool, like, cause like the show's called The Bear and bears eat fish. I don't know. I don't know what the meaning of the fish is. I just was like, my first interpretation is like, bears eat fish, and
Yeah.
and I was like, I
Yeah.
wonder why you put that there.
Yeah, that's interesting. And also like the angel tattoos. I know I saw in the article it was like the Grim Reaper with the alcohol, but then like the angel tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like kind of like another like weird thing like that goes together. And I think the article was saying like how it's like showing like how his life is full of contradiction and stuff. And I feel like this tattoo, like those two tattoos together, are like very like contradictory and like show that like that's kind of true about his life. I think that's interesting. Like I don't know why he did that, cause like you were saying, like I don't think he's like religious or anything, so that's kind of interesting. But
Yeah, I think it's odd that the little lines around it, you would expect something to be in the middle of it, but there's nothing
Mhm.
there.
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
don't understand what they're looking at.
yeah,
Maybe it's a hopeful kind of thing,
yeah,
or
that's true.
like his future is unwritten. I don't know. I could just be, I don't know. But I would expect something to be in the middle, but there's nothing there.
Yeah.
I think the article mentioned that it's supposed to be a son or something, and it
Oh.
represents, or it could represent his relationship with his siblings and how they kind of shielded him, I guess, from his abusive parents or mother. So
Yeah.
I think that's good that he has that relationship with his siblings, and they had so much of an impact on his life and growing up.
Yeah. Do y'all have any other thoughts on the tattoos?
I think we touched pretty much all of them.
Okay, let's go to the next one. So the show is clearly about mental health, but watching it can be a lot to handle. Do you think Mr. Deal should continue using it in future semesters? Why or why not?
I do think so because it can really help people understand what people could be going through, especially with like the loss of like a sibling. That can be kind of hard. So it's like you kind of get their kind of view of what, yeah.
I also really like how it shows how different people cope with grief. Like
Yeah.
how, like sometimes it's like you hear it all the time that everybody copes differently, but it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around that until you like see it, and like how some people are drinking, some people are baking, some people are smoking, some people like they're just doing all these different types of things to cope with it, and it's kind of interesting to see it like actually play out how people would cope with grief. I think it's a really interesting show.
Yeah, I also think that he should keep using this show because, like you were saying, like you never really know what people are going through. I think that's this show's like very like much touches on that, and then also like especially for college kids, I know mental health is like something that like a lot of like college students go through and stuff, and I think this show is like really emphasizing that and like how it's important to prioritize your mental health, like not just like him, like Carmi working in the like not just like Carmi losing his sibling, but also just like the stress of working in a restaurant and like how much like of an impact that has on him. So I think that was like showing how important mental health is. So yeah, I think that he should continue using it in the future.
Absolutely. I think the show does very well is showcasing each person. I think it does it at a very good pace as well. Like as much as the show feels chaotic and rushed, that's somebody's mind. You're literally getting a view into somebody's mind during the show, and it's not just one person; it's multiple, like you said, and it shows the different coping mechanisms people need. But then this show also kind of erases the stigmatism of mental health. I mean, you look how far we've come in such a short amount of time, but we really haven't really recognized or researched mental health as much. And it's still relatively new, and there's so much stigmatism still surrounding it. And I think this show really does resonate with people who feel this way, because this shows that you're not alone. Everybody is going through something, despite how good or great your life is. Everybody's life is different, and everyone is struggling with something. And I think this show represents very well that you are not alone. You are not the only one struggling. You should seek help because it's just very difficult in the world we live in, and we need to break down that stigmatism that surrounds mental health.
Any other thoughts on this one?
I was just going to say, I think it's really easy to empathize with the characters in the show, and it's a lot of characters to pick from to kind of dissect and see how they handle or how they deal or cope with the death of Mikey, the change of the restaurant, the change of pace. So it's definitely easy to find someone in the show that you can resonate or relate with, and I think it's definitely a good show to watch if you can handle the fast pace, the crazy behavior, and just like, I guess it's what's the word? It's a more, I guess, common way of being able to understand someone who's dealing with mental health but won't admit it themselves that they have something going on.
That's really true. So we're gonna move on to our final question, which is our bonus question that we made up, and it is: who do you think out of the cast is the most heartbroken, and why?
I feel like Richie is. I feel like he expresses it more throughout the show than any of the other characters. Carmi, I feel like he just kind of keeps it to himself. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can agree with that because I think Richie's life has piled up, not to compare grief or anything, but I think Richie has experienced more than Carmi. Richie is divorced. Richie has lost custody of his child. Richie's neighborhood is changing. Richie's restaurant is changing. Richie lost his personal, him and his cousin were very close, as we saw running the restaurant together, and he doesn't know how to cope, and he doesn't know how to deal with change, so he lashes out on Carmi and everybody else. So I would say I agree with that. He is the most heartbroken because I don't think he knows how to patch up his own heart because all of this is happening at once for him.
Yeah, I also agree that it's. I think that Richie's the most heartbroken because, like you were saying, everything's just kind of like happening at once, like the divorce, the Michael dying, and like like everything's like changing around him, and it's like he can't, like everything's like all like coming at him all at once, and it's like hard for him to like deal with all that. So you definitely see in the show like kind of like relating to like one of the other questions that we had, and just like how he like takes it out on other people, and it's like it's very clear that he's heartbroken. But I think it would be like I feel like he's the one he shows it the most, but I feel like it's possible that another character like could also be like experiencing the same like amount of heartbreak as him, but just not as obvious. Like for example, like Tina, like we don't really get to like see like much like of her like storyline stuff. So for all we know, like she could be like really like heartbroken like too, but we don't really like get to see that because they don't show her that much. But I think like as far as like who like shows it the most, I think Richie like for sure does. But does anyone have any other thoughts?
If you really wanted to play devil's advocate, you could argue that Mikey was the most heartbroken because he did actually physically pass away from suicide due to whatever he was dealing with. So if you really wanted to play that, you could, because we don't actually know what he was dealing with. It could have been the bills. It could have been a number of things. We saw the bills, we saw the drug abuse, the money, but we don't know what actually made him do it. But we know he got to the point where he just couldn't go on any longer, and he didn't let anybody know or give really any indication that he was going to commit suicide. So you could argue he was the most heartbroken in the show because he felt like he had no one to go to in order to help with his mental health.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
That's such a good point. And it's just like everybody talks about, oh, how it's going to affect your friends, your family, how it affects everybody else around you, but nobody talks about how the thoughts or like the emotions piling up and leading up to suicide is like the real heartbreak. Like you never know how much somebody's going through until either they tell you or you end up with a situation like Mikey. So definitely like saying that Mikey was the most heartbroken and people don't even like consider him as a character because he's dead or because of his absence in the show, it's just like it definitely brings it to light that like it's a show that definitely touches on some serious topics and touches on like mental health and how it's not talked about, discussed enough. So,
Yeah. So anyone have any other thoughts? Okay, so that was all the questions. Thank you to everyone that was listening to our podcast, and we hope you enjoy. Bye.
Bye.